Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Well, the Iowa Hawkeyes improved to 8-5 on the season. With a victory over the Kentucky Wildcats out of the SEC. And, there's definitely a few things to discuss. But in my opinion, it is basically business as usual for the Iowa Hawkeyes. The game started fairly slow. Neither team scored in the first half. 0-0, as they say. And just a classic Iowa Hawkeye football start. Not really much to say there. Let me get this shared out. Iowa versus Kentucky post-game. Hashtag Music City. In my game preview, I told you guys that, both of these teams were very similar. And they are. They're both very similar teams. I still think that. Their run and coached in a very similar facet. Iowa versus Kentucky post-game. Joey Labus first start. Hawkeyes finish 8-5. All right, there we go. The game started slow, as I said. Both these teams very similar in how they are run. Coming into this game, folks, and I said this in my game preview, I was going to be paying the most attention to Joey Labus and the Iowa Hawkeye offense. Although Cade McNamara was going to be an Iowa Hawkeye, I was very interested to see what Joey Labus would be able to provide this Iowa Hawkeye football team. I think he did. I think he did just fine for what is really possible within this Iowa Hawkeye offense. And that's kind of the whole story of the season. We are constantly and consistently promised or alluded this change that is going to take place with regards to the Iowa Hawkeye offense. And seldom do we, not seldom, we never see it. We never see it. And it's just, at this point, it is becoming a broken record. It's hard to get excited with regards to Iowa Hawkeye football as a whole. And I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people, like if a Kentucky fan were to listen to my reaction right now, they would say, hold on a second, Marco Lainez followed me. What? No, that's not the real. No way is this the real Marco Lainez. I think the Kentucky fan would say, you guys just beat us 21-0. Why are you not more excited? And the answer is, we've seen this before. Like Iowa, and it really just comes down to where you stand as a fan. Are you someone who is okay with the very boring, yet consistent status quo, 8-5, 7-6, 9-win season. Actually, 9-win season would be pretty solid. The status quo, 8-7-win season, or do you want more? Are you a part of the fan base that wants more? And the thing is, when it comes to the fan base that wants more, it's not out of that part of the fan base not being honest about what the University of Iowa is, or being ungrateful for Kirk Ferentz or Hayden Fry, or being spoiled or anything like that. It's just that part of the fan base, which is myself, sees how dang good Phil Parker and LeVar Woods, the defense and the special teams are. And we go, dang, if we just had an average offense, it would so much more would be possible. And I feel like, folks, as someone who does this regularly, by the way, like, comment, share. This is going to be the last football video of the season for the 2022 football season. If you want to send a donation or a super chat, as many of you have already done, and I thank all of you who did this past season. I am so incredibly grateful. I really am. If you want to do that, you can hit the donation button on the bottom of the screen. But it's just, we look at it and we go, man, so much more would be possible. And we look at it and we go, we already have this. If we just had this. Whereas the other part of the fan base goes, well, we're lucky to even have this. We're lucky to even have a good defense and a good special teams. So I think it just depends where you're at. As for Iowa versus Kentucky, as I said, it was the status quo. It was Iowa's offense only scoring one touchdown the entire game, and Iowa's defense and special teams being elite. That has been the entirety of this season. The entirety of this season, I would actually say the past 3 seasons, has been Iowa's defense and Iowa's special teams leading Iowa to multiple victories, being elite, being top 20 in the country in their, if not top 10 at their perspective position groups or phases of football. Totally dominating. And whereas the offense, did we really see much more, folks? Was this Iowa offense really that much different? Because I was seeing, all of these tweets from Chad Leistico, from Mark Emmert, all the Hawkeye contributors saying, oh, there's different wrinkles to this Iowa Hawkeye offense. They're having Labus be way more mobile. They're adding some new plays, which we have heard, and I told you guys that we would hear. We have heard over and over and over again over the past 5 years. But it was pretty much the same old, same old. The only difference is that existed in Iowa versus Kentucky was Iowa now had a more mobile quarterback under center. But everything else was the same. The play calls were the same. The conservative play calling was the same. The type of plays, the scheme, the strategy, all of it was the same. So now, I don't want to harp on this too much because in the end, Iowa did win the football game. They won 21-0. Riley Moss, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta will go down as some of the best Iowa Hawkeyes ever. They won a crap ton of football games. They really did. They won a ton of football games. And I'm grateful for their service as Iowa Hawkeye football players. They have been extremely loyal, just good guys. And I think they did great. I think Xavier Wampa was had his coming out party. I think he looked really good. He's going to be great next year. Cooper DeJean is going to be an All-American next year. So that's pretty much it, folks. I am booish on the notion that Cade McNamara means that there's going to be some major change to this Iowa Hawkeye offense. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Cade McNamara is just going to be a better quarterback under center for Brian Ferentz. But as far as the strategy and as far as the scheme and as far as all of that goes, it's going to be the same old, same old. And by the end of the season, Cade McNamara is going to be extremely upset. He's going to be annoyed, and it's not going to be good unless Iowa finds a way to win 10 games. Now, if they don't do that, then Cade McNamara, like so many other Hawkeye fans, like Keegan Johnson, like Arland Bruce, are going to be disappointed with the performance of the Iowa offense. So, and those of you who think that Brian Ferentz is not going to be the offensive coordinator, you are sadly mistaken. He is absolutely going to be the offensive coordinator for the Iowa Hawkeyes. This win over Kentucky has only given him even more of a cushion that he already had going into next year. You guys got to understand, Kirk Ferentz literally is the king of the Iowa Hawkeye athletics department as a whole. So if he wants Brian Ferentz to be the offensive coordinator, he's going to be the offensive coordinator. That's all there is to it. Last thing is, what are my expectations for the offseason and kind of my thoughts going into next year? Well, I kind of already alluded to them. Cooper DeJean is going to be great. Xavier Wampa is going to be great. Jay Higgins, I think, is going to be a strong linebacker for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa's defensive line is going to be solid yet again. Iowa's defense is going to be great. Torrey Taylor is going to come back. Drew Stevens, the kicker, is going to be back. So the special teams and the defense are going to be great yet again. There's going to be some youngsters that emerge for the Iowa Hawkeyes, such as TJ Hall, cornerback, and some other guys. But other than that, guys, it's going to be the same old, same old. And this, at this point, this is just kind of who Kirk Ferentz is. Kirk Ferentz, regardless of the level of talent that he has, would rather have his defense and his special teams eke out victories, and he would rather keep a majority of the games close, but in winnable distance, and lose to the Ohio States and Michigans than to throw it all out or throw a good chunk out in order to have a chance at beating the Michigans, Penn States, and Ohio States of the country. He is perfectly fine beating very closely teams like Nebraska, even though Iowa lost to this past year, Illinois, Minnesota. He is perfectly content eking out victories over teams like that. And so, as I said at the beginning of this postgame, it just comes down to where you stand as a fan. Are you someone where that's not enough and you think that we should ask for more? Or are you someone who is okay with the status quo that has been the Iowa Hawkeyes over the past 20 years? Personally, I think it's perfectly fine to ask for more. And I do ask for more. I am the only Iowa contributor who consistently asks for more, because I think that they have the ability to recruit better. I think they have the ability to win more games and to become, folks, do you realize Iowa football, if you look at the prestige of the Big Ten, Iowa football over the past 40 years, in my opinion, if you average it all out, would probably be one of the top 4 or 5 Big Ten teams overall. If you think in relation to how fans view each program, how recruits view each program, how fellow coaches view each program, Iowa football would be top 4 or 5 in the Big Ten. But the way they recruit and how they view themselves is like they're barely a top 10 team in the Big Ten, which is a mistake. But it's just going to stay the same. So Joey Labus, last thing, Joey Labus, if I had to give him a grade, I'd give him a B-. I think he played fine. It was good to see his mobility, and yes, that does definitely help. Josiah Patterson was a pleasant surprise. He played really well. He hit the gap, as it's called, which was good. It looks like, honestly, folks, it looks like Josiah and Caleb are going to be the top two running backs going into next year, as opposed to LaShawn Williams. Gavin Williams saw the writing on the wall and bounced, but it looks like Caleb Johnson and Josiah Patterson are going to be the top two running backs going into next year. Again, Joey Labus played fine. I was pleasantly surprised to see what he's capable of. And if we didn't have Cade McNamara, I would be fairly optimistic about the future of Iowa football under Joey Labus. I really think Joey Labus is going to give Cade McNamara a run for his money. Joey Labus has some talent. He's 6'5". He can run. He has a good arm. He's accurate. But again, the Iowa offense is pretty much the same. Look at this, guys. Receiving. The only guy, the top two guys for Iowa were tight ends, Sam Laporta and Luke Lachey. Nico Reganey, 2 receptions for 21 yards. Just not going to get it done, folks. So anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think. I mean, I feel like I'm being kind of harsh considering Iowa did just beat Kentucky 21-0. But at the same time, you have to take it with a grain of salt because, Kentucky's not at full strength. Iowa isn't either. But, bowl games are tricky. Am I being too harsh when it comes to the Iowa Hawkeyes? Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Are you optimistic about this Iowa Hawkeye football program moving forward? Did this game do anything to change how you view the Iowa Hawkeyes moving forward? And what are your expectations for the offseason? What would you like to see? I'll probably do another video tomorrow recapping this Iowa Hawkeye football season and putting a stamp next to my expectations for next year. I'm going to read a few comments here. Tom Hartle, classic 2022 Hawks game. Defense outscored offense 14-7. Couldn't agree more. Totally agree. Michael Morin, thank God we're getting Cade. I agree, but again, Cade is going to do everything in spite of Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz. He's not going to, in other words, he's not going to become an Iowa Hawkeye and do really well because he's an Iowa Hawkeye. In fact, Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz are going to impede him unless they make changes, which I just don't see them doing. So I honestly do think that by the end of the season, unless Iowa is on the verge of winning 10 games and winning the Big Ten West, I really do think we're going to be in a situation where Cade McNamara is fully displeased with the Iowa Hawkeyes and totally regretting his decision as he was promised changes. We just haven't, guys, we just haven't seen him. So, but as far as Cade McNamara goes, yeah, if it's just him, looking at him in a box, I'm very excited, but there's more to it than just that. Shay Amos, heard Brian ran off the field before the final horn in the trophy ceremony. Kind of weird if you ask me. Kind of. Coaches do that a lot, especially if they had some problems on the field and they just want to get off the field so that they don't end up punching somebody before they get into the locker room. Kyle Robinson, I didn't see the game, but good to see a shutout against Kentucky. Now moving forward, I just don't see the offense getting better with Brian Ferentz as the OC. I see 4-8 to 6-6 in 2023 season. Well, I agree, but then I disagree with the record prediction. Again, as long as, and I said this past year, as long as you have the type of defense that Iowa has and the special teams, you're going to be in every game. And especially with it being college football, you're actually going to have a better chance to win those games when you shouldn't than you would have in the pros. Well, because they're pros. Whereas in college, they're not pros. Well, technically they are pros because they make money. But anyways, you get the point. So, I kind of cap that at 8 wins, 7 wins. When you have the type of defense and special teams Iowa has, you're always good for like a 7 and 8 win season, which is what we have consistently seen under Kirk Ferentz. So, but everything else I agree with. Michael Morin, if they really want to take the next step, then quarterback needs to stop jerking around the NIL groups. Well, it's not just that. Apparently, the University of Iowa is not providing the cooperation that they should be providing to some of the collectives. And Iowa is going to have to figure that out because we already lost one high caliber guy because Iowa just didn't have the ability to offer more. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what much more to say on that. I don't really think Iowa's quarterbacks have been like NIL chasers. Spencer Petras, he stayed at Iowa. Alex Padilla stayed at Iowa until he decided to transfer because he wasn't getting playing time. Joey Labus is staying. Now, Cade McNamara was kind of a NIL NIL chaser, but it benefited us. So, oh, I meant Gary Barden, not quarterback. Yeah, I agree. Gary Barden needs to get better when it comes to NIL, 100%. Because if he doesn't, it may end up costing him his job because this is just the way college sports is going. Last comment, Iowa needs to get into the transfer portal and get quality speed wide receivers to help open the offense up, please. Again, I've said this many times. I appreciate the comment, but I've said this many times. The problem is not athleticism. Iowa just played against the SEC team and was the more athletic team between them and Kentucky. Iowa has athletes. The problem is the scheme and Brian Ferentz. The problem is the strategy, Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz. That's the problem. Again, a perfect example of what I'm saying, Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones, he goes to Purdue and all of a sudden he has speed. No, he always had speed. He was always an athlete. It's just Iowa didn't use him very well, and that's on Iowa. So anyways, folks, Iowa finishes 8-5. Thank you all for being here. The season has been great. Thank you for all the contributions, everybody, the super chats, the donations. I really do appreciate it. The season mostly has been a success, except when it hasn't been. I think it could have been so much more. I will be doing another video tomorrow on a few things. Brian Ferentz, my expectations for next year, so on and so forth. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. In facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. Have a good New Year's Eve, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Ugh.